Happy Thursday to the GoDaddy small business community and those that are joining us live, those that are listening to this later. This is a community meetup, right? It is a community conversation that is designed to allow us to kind of capture some connection, listen and learn through candid conversations, and really just share what's going on in small business today, tomorrow, and forward, because everything changes. It ebbs and it flows. And we like bringing different people on from different walks of life, people that have different takes, right? And so each and every week, it's my pleasure to have somebody on. We do this twice a month at the beginning of the month, and the third week we check in, but we try to share some perspectives and some stories. And today our guest is Sarah V. She is a visibility coach, and she has a lot to share with us. It's very exciting. And Sarah, it's funny that you're a visibility coach. We were just talking about fog, right? Because there's the fog.
Yeah.
It was real this morning, but there's this fog of the year, right? Like we're getting into the holiday season. We're getting fogged over with wondering where we're at, what we have to get done still, and if we should even be considering like where we're headed next. And that can drive a lot of confusion. So we appreciate having you on today and sharing your voice. One of the things we like to do, Sarah, is we like to have everybody that is here and present with you introduce themselves. And we do that so that they can feel committed to you and you can feel committed to them, right? That's connection, that's community. So I'm going to start the roundtable here. My name's Adam Griggs. I'm your moderator today, and I am very, very appreciative for everybody that's joining us. And I'm excited to share your voice, Sarah, today with us. And I'm going to shoot it over to Elena at GoDaddy.
Hi, I'm Elena. I've been with GoDaddy for about 4.5 years. Like I said, I'm based out of Austin, Texas. I am on Rachel's team. We work on community engagement. So chatting with, engaging with, bringing virtual events to all of our GoDaddy customers and small business owners. It's always really fun to get to meet you guys and hear all about your business and what you have to say. So I'm excited.
Hey, everybody. Rachel McCool at GoDaddy, as Elena had mentioned. So I've been with the company 7 years, focused on community. And as Elena mentioned, our goal is to create engaging opportunities, give you guys opportunities to network, because we know that that's very important for you to kind of learn and talk to others that are small business owners. And so, we love this group. We formed the group about 2.5 years ago now, and just really appreciate Adam leading the conversations and inviting great people like Sarah as guests. So great to have you today, Sarah.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Always being an excellent member of the community and creating engagement, right? It's engagement drives experience, and experience is where we all learn to connect and grow. So thank you for that. I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Alexander down in Atlanta.
I'm Michelle Alexander with AGM Financial, and I help people live a better financial life by helping them plant their money tree.
Michelle, we absolutely love having you on as part of the conversation and part of the community. Michelle contributes all the time in the community, and we appreciate that very much. Emma, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Oh, it's so great to be here. Thank you, Sarah, and thanks, Adam and Rachel, GoDaddy, everybody. This is great. I am Emma Lawrence, based in Minneapolis. I'm a certified life coach with a specialty in helping people beyond burnout. That's me. I'm really excited to hear about some creative approaches. I use creativity a lot in my practice.
Love it. I love it. And burnout's a huge deal for so many of us. And it's also an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to discover that next bit of creativity, the new idea. And learn, right, as we grow. So Emma, thank you for being here. And to the other members of the community, if you are here with your cameras off and you're just listening, that's okay, right? Rule number one, this is candid conversations. Come for the connections, live in the chat, or just be here taking an open ear and growing with us. So thank you to everybody that is here with us today. And again, to those that are listening to this afterwards. Sarah, you are a creative visibility coach. You're the author of this amazing book, The Yellow Brick Road to Self-Discovery, and it's mental health and strength for entrepreneurs, which is really cool. And it's built as this awesome workbook. And I realized that I forgot to introduce somebody else that's part of your team. This person right here, right? So you are the founder of She-Rex Marketing. Can you tell us, who's on the book?
Yes. So this is Martha the T-Rex. She has become my mascot over the past 5 years, I suppose. There's a story behind her for sure. But it's just, people often look at marketing as boring and tedious and hard. And she's just here to remind us that it doesn't have to be.
I love that. You know, we were connected through a community event, right? And that's how our world grows. It's how perspective grows. It's how we learn from each other. And so Sarah V and Martha T have this amazing journey of creative visibility. And that's one of the things we really want to hone in on is how do we remain visible? Because in community, we want to be engaged. We want to elevate and empower each other, but we have to find that community first. We have to find that reason and the people that really jive with our mission. So Sarah, one of the things I love to do in these is kind of share some background. How did you get to being a creative visibility coach? Like, where did you start? Is that something you knew you wanted to be from the moment you were born? You know, talk to us.
No, actually, I have quite the journey. I've always stayed in the creative field, but I went from a graphic designer to elementary and middle school art teacher. I taught college for a little bit, and I taught graphic design and photography in college. And then I became a photographer business owner. And I did that for about 9 years until the pandemic hit. And at the point that the pandemic hit, I was a single solopreneur. So my main chunk of business was photography. So imagine being single and having all of my business stripped away within a matter of months, and all my clients started canceling. And I'm like, okay, I see what's coming, but I have other skills. And I had been sitting down with people in the wedding industry for years for coffee dates, just to help them with their marketing, because it was something that always came really naturally to me. And I'd been sitting down just for friends, and they're like, Sarah, you understand this stuff. Can you teach us this? And I had just been doing it as a friend. And so when I lost all of my business, I was like, okay, I have other skills. I have an education background. I have a master's in education, and I'm really good at marketing. And my friends are always asking me to teach these things. So I did a very quick pivot, and I went into kind of visual branding, and started teaching Instagram and marketing classes. And then over the last 2 years, I've been tweaking it and honing it into what I actually feel is more authentic to me. And it's been a great exploration and evolution of me, and figuring out how I can show up. And it's been great. It's been a little challenging at times, but I've never really shied away from a challenge. So
I like that. Tenacious. You know, it's one of those things, business can be difficult. And I love the story of going from the scarcity environment to an abundance mindset, of really driving home what you wanted to do. Where was your authentic self living, and what was the next step in your journey? Instead of saying, well, the world is throwing this at everybody, I could take the victim status and I could just shut down. I could just utilize this as an excuse to shirk away and wait and see what comes to me. But instead you stepped forward.
yeah.
You allowed that to be a discovery moment. And we talk about discovery and curiosity, right? Anytime we have an obstacle, it's an opportunity to be curious and to discover more.
Right.
Discover our own tenacity, like what you said, and our ability to push through, or even to redefine what life and business looks like for us and for our clients. I mean, obviously, things had kind of shifted for you because you had these moments, these engaging conversations with your clients over the years, over coffee, and things that were a little bit more meaningful, and they offered that humanity, that connection, that differentiator. So I love that that's what you did, because business is an evolution, right? Business changes. We saw that.
Absolutely. Well, and the problem is if business isn't changing, then you're not growing. You're not, this is going to be silly, but on my walk this morning, I saw this mushroom, and then I saw like the next couple steps of the same mushroom. Like it was the same mushroom, just in a different stage of where it was in its development. And I thought nature never slows down in developing into the next level of what it's supposed to be. The reason we do as humans is because we put a lot of, obviously we have brains. We're allowed to think and process things, but we almost sometimes put too much thought into it. And it's a barrier to where we're supposed to be next, versus just taking the action and just keep evolving with society and with, the algorithm or whatever is happening. you can be the next best version of yourself if you just allow yourself to keep going.
I love that. I think that that's a beautiful, not just a metaphor. I mean, obviously, this is a visual you saw in real life. And it is natural for things to want to continue to grow and, of course, grow together, right? It's an ecosystem.
Right.
We have to live and survive in this environment. So there's give and take. And if you're not willing to grow with it, then what happens to your business and your clients? It feels stagnant. And I use the word evolution because I'm, being a little bit playful here, because I'll be scrolling through and I see Sarah wearing a dinosaur hat talking online, like a dinosaur head. Like that to me is awesome because she's giving great tips and it's something that's just fun and different. And you wouldn't see too many people willingly just put themselves out there. And I love that that's how you do it. You live life so fulfilled and so out in the open, teaching people.
But that's also been an evolution of me, right?
Yeah.
So like I was in the beginning, even having her, I was only showing her intimately to my photography clients. And so they were the only ones that knew about her. And then she started showing up gradually on social media. And then my audience started knowing who she was, and then stepping more into, well, who do I want to be? Who, if I can picture my future self, what does she look like? And what elements do I bring that just makes me happy? And I'm a storyteller. I love engaging in fun, quirky stories. And as an elementary art teacher, imagine I had recess duties and lunch duties and after school duties where I was in charge of watching 50 to 75 kids by myself, and how do you entertain them? Well, you entertain them with story. And then realizing that adults are just bigger versions of kids, or at least the ones that I want to attract. And the more I lean into who I am, and the more I'm not afraid of showing up as me, the more fun everybody around me has.
It's magnetic. I like it. And I love that you said the recess thing. Because in the community, we were talking about stress relievers, and really adults need recess. We need time to get up, move, and enjoy the world.
Absolutely. Daily walks, and not just walking for the destination, not just walking for the timing. Okay, I've got to get my 30 walk in. But if you take the time to look around you and observe the nature, especially if you take the exact same walk every single day, you can see how little bits of nature changes every day. You can take the same picture every single day in the same location and then look at all the pictures throughout the year, and you'll notice how they have evolved and how they have changed. And it's just it's a way of being one, but it's a recess, right? It's a way to exercise our brain in a different way than we would normally do.
Yeah, I love that. I think that number one, we have to have the ability to see things in a different light, right? Which is why we meet and connect and really align with people that are magnetic, their energy. They're people that we seek out, people like you, Sarah, that have this freestyle of just inviting an education. I mean, your book is a road to self-discovery for entrepreneurs, which you could have just left it at that. Yay, I'm an author. I did, a self-discovery book. But then you made it themed around the Wizard of Oz and having fun with it. And then you took that a step further and you brought your own personal brand into it, which is, Martha the T-Rex, and going on a journey and telling a story as it unfolds. And it's so funny because so many of us have stories in business. There are stories that are the real story, right? What's actually going on. There are stories that we'll tell to people because we don't know if we want to tell them everything. And then there's the story we tell ourselves, like what is really going on? What do we really want? And what are we holding back? And I love that book that you've written kind of helps drive that conversation. And coming from that teaching background, do you feel like that's one of the strengths that allowed you to do that? Or was it more like cause and effect? You learned as you grew, you failed, you got up, dusted yourself off. Talk to us about that.
I feel like I'm always like, I love psychology. I love learning about myself and how I tick and why I do these things. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the word metacognitive, but it's the process of evaluating your own thought process. Okay, so I am constantly evaluating, well, why did I do that? well, okay, how can I change that behavior for next time? And then so I obsess over learning about all of the different things of the power of self-talk and distractions, and figuring out how I can improve and not make and stop making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Like, I have the power, everyone has the power to change their mind if they want to. And so the more I was digging into this, the more I realized that, well, first of all, when I started talking about this with people openly, they're like, that's not normal though. And I'm like, you don't have these thoughts too? Well, no. And I'm like, oh, And they tried to make me feel weird and odd for it. But I thought, ooh, I have a superpower. It's all how you depend. It's all how you choose to see it. It's all your viewpoint of it. And so as I am out in the world, and I am a natural teacher, I am not just in marketing or education or art education, but just in life in general. I tend to, want to help people improve everywhere I go. And so if I'm in a conversation with someone and they're having a problem with always being distracted or having shiny object syndrome or something like that, I'm going to try to give them tips on how to overcome it. And I realize a lot of the entrepreneurs that don't have this kind of mindset kept getting tripped on things, and they couldn't quite find their way out of it. And I thought, well, I have all this knowledge and background, and I've always wanted to write a book. And so I thought, well, I can put it together, and I'll just put it together almost like I'm writing curriculum. And well, how do you write curriculum to keep people engaged? You don't just write the story itself. You can, but I know to keep someone engaged, it has to be slightly entertaining as well. And then to help them understand the concept that might be too big for their brain to understand, analogies are a great tool. You take something that they're already really familiar with, and maybe they're familiar with it in a way that they've never made a connection over to what it is. So once I started telling people, well, Dorothy's journey on the Yellow Brick Road is a self-discovery journey. And people were like, what? And I'm like, think about it. Think about where she started. And by the time she gets through all of these obstacles, where she is at the end, everything she's gone through is her overcoming something in her path that she had to figure out within her where her strength was. And so I don't even remember how. I think I found the correlation between that first. And then I'm like, ooh, how can I? Yes, well, her squad, right? Everybody needs a squad in a community to travel their journey with. And she had Toto and, Scarecrow and Tin Man and Cowardly Lion. And then everybody grew at the same time because they were in a community where growth mindset was a thing, because you are the people that you surround yourself with. But I think I found the correlation first and then thought, oh, I could make the parallel. It's not that big of a jump to compare that to what the entrepreneur goes through, and how these little tips and tricks along. And then it was fun. And then it was fun. You're like, oh, okay, let's break down and let's look at all the different things she went through. And where can I find the comparison between this and what we all struggle with as entrepreneurs that we may or may not be aware of?
Yeah, I hope everybody that's going to listen to this later and listening now are taking notes, because basically what you just shared with us was your own personal journey, but it was a discovery in how to really become visible, right? You found something that you loved, a passion that you wanted to discuss, and you knew based on your audience that they had specific needs. They wanted to be encouraged and they wanted to be entertained. Maybe they didn't understand the scientific side of things, so you've got to bring analogies into it, and the stories really are your strong point. And that's a differentiator. That brought in that creativity, and that creativity drove you to have more excitement. And the idea to build, business builds, the more excited you get because you love the passion and you're pursuing it.
Right.
So allowing yourself to be creative in those moments, it's the engagement that allows people to remember who you were and
Yeah.
align with that. I mean, we met one time and immediately I knew exactly the type of person that you were based on our connection. I ordered your book, read that, learned more about you. It's snowballed since then. And then you reached out and gave me tips for my nephew who wants to be an online like Twitch gamer, and it was totally unsolicited.
Yeah.
But because of the conversation we had, it became fun and we were growing and we were engaging, and our connection inside of our own community is now that much more strong. And I think there's power in that. There's power in you allowing yourself to be creative and sharing that in the right frame of mind, right? Instead of being condescending or arrogant or even just being dry, right? Because so many people put out dry information online. You had a creative process and you ran with it. I love that.
Yeah. And so the question is, are you having fun with the information that you're putting out? If you are not enjoying writing that article, if you are not enjoying putting out that video, if it is not enjoyable to you, no one else is going to enjoy it either. And it's something you have to really think about. Like, if you're having fun at what you're doing, it's contagious, So I bring Martha along, and I do get really weird looks at times, but I'm okay with that because I know what her purpose is. I know why I have her. I know where she's evolved from. There is a whole story. There is but and I embody the T-Rex. And I have made like this whole little story about, like, people will ask me, well, why a T-Rex? And like, I mean, because everybody knows who a T-Rex is. And that's my goal. My goal is for everybody to know who I am and what I do. And that a T-Rex doesn't worry about that. They just show up, so it's about, for me, it's storytelling. It's keeping myself engaged and keeping myself entertained. And I know that so for writing the book, I didn't know if anyone was going to buy it or not. That wasn't really the point of it. The point of it was because I had this knowledge. I saw a parallel and I thought, well, this will be fun. Let's see if we can do this. And it was more of a curiosity, like, can I do this? Let's try it. And I put it out there. And then it's the type of thing that I gave it to my one-to-one clients. I bring it around with me. I always have a book with me, usually in my purse or in my car. And so if someone's in a conversation, I'm like, yeah, well, I wrote this workbook. It was fun. And here, I think this is something that would benefit you. You can go find it on Amazon. So, enjoy the process, and magical things happen.
Of that, and especially the magical part, right? It's interesting the way that you've approached this. You're very at peace, and you're just very open and free about it, and I love that. Your aura that you're presenting is something that I think most people would probably find connection to, and otherwise, if they don't, they're probably not part of your journey anyways, right?
No,
So
they're not.
there's that fear cycle.
Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to kind of touch on here is the inside secret, the secret weapon that everybody has, which is mindset. It's the ability to really see things in a different light. You and I are part of a closed group. I'm writing a science fiction novel, and I ask some crazy questions.
I love them, though.
And so last night, one of the questions I asked got kind of out of control. Like, people were getting back at me, like messaging, commenting. I started getting text messages offline about it. And then one of my friends who's in the group texted a group conversation that a lot of other people weren't part of, and everybody was confused and they wanted to know what we were talking about. And I realized that it's weird to segment that part of your life off if you're enjoying it so much and there's this creative process. Why do we do that? I honestly, I did it out of fear. I'm writing my first book.
Absolutely.
It was containment. And I was sitting there thinking about that and thinking about our discussion today, Sarah, on how you change yourself from being in that fear or scarcity mindset, that let's contain the damage mindset while doing things, to living life kind of openly and free, and putting out that joy, that process. How do you do that? What is the secret weapon? What's that inside secret that you've discovered?
Surrounding yourself with people that ask big picture questions. And so they are opening your mind to things that you don't normally consider. And then allowing the thoughts I always picture my brain to have like a filing cabinet in it, like not just a filing cabinet. It has an office upstairs, right? And so there's an office in there, and there's all these filing cabinets everywhere, and there's all these papers floating around. And some of the papers floating around are things that I haven't figured out how to categorize yet, or where they fit in. And so, some of those things, you're in the conversation with like one of your friends and you forget something. You're like, oh, it's okay. It'll spiral back in just a minute because your brain's always looping, right? So I just, there's all these thoughts from all these people and all these things that I've taken in at some point, and I just picture them as like things that are just floating up there, and it'll come back. I'll need it for something, even if it seems really like obscure, or I don't know. I have a million stories that go on in my head at any given time. And if nothing else, they entertain me, and I think part of the process of getting to be free and just to show up authentically was letting go of some of that fear. And I will say in the beginning, it was difficult. It was. And so I baby stepped into it. And so I looked at where I want to be and where I thought it's like I can feel where I should be. And if I'm not ready to be there yet, then let's water it down. And then let's water it down a little bit more. And okay, what does that look like? And when I'm at that place, okay, that feels okay. I feel like I can do that. So in the beginning of like creating videos and being on video, and like I have a T-Rex tip for you. It might be tiny, but it'll make a big difference how you show up. That's what I do now. And now that feels really easy, but that's not where I started. I started with lip syncing. No, actually, I didn't even start with lip syncing because I was horrible at lip syncing. I started with just videos that you just point and you just make different facial expressions because that felt easy. And then I was like, well, I wonder if I could do the lip syncing thing. And then I did a few of those. I'm still bad at those, by the way. And then I jumped over to, well, the thing that seems to make the most sense, though, is actually using my thoughts. And what's my superpower? My superpower is telling analogies and giving, I want you to think of Goldilocks and the Three Bears and how it's a direct correlation to, you can't talk to everybody because everybody's slightly different, even in the same household. And I'm like, but I can't do that as well through lip syncing or through the video. So I just started like, we can do this. And, part of it is I understand like the technical side. And so I know how to edit and cut my videos to speed them up to the time that I'm supposed to. But part of it's just doing it scared and practicing. Oh my goodness. Can I tell you how much I talk to myself out loud on a regular basis? And I've just decided not to make it a bad thing. I've just decided that people will say what they want to say. Well, as long as you don't answer yourself. And I'm like, but what if I do? But I've just decided it's not a bad thing. It's how I learn. It's how I have to hear it for it to then be embodied. And if it's stuck in my head the whole time, I'm never going to like, it's never going to be me. And I feel like I'm not answering your question.
No, you're fine. You did.
Okay.
The superpower is mindset, right? You literally sat down, gave yourself permission and said, I'm going to be okay with this. The rest of the world can either take a hike or join me on it, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that is very difficult. Number one, as an entrepreneur, right? But as an individual. And we have to remind ourselves, getting back to that feeling of recess, adults need recess, kids learn differently. Some are model learners. Some need to see it written. Some need to practice over and over again. Some of us need mentors, and others want to try to trek it alone and learn as we go, right? So everybody's got this different style, and allowing yourself the space to understand that and be free and have fun unleashes those mindset moments that creates new ideas, new fun, new exciting opportunities to be creative. And in those moments that you are excited and creative, that's visibility. That's when people see you for you. That's when people see the differentiation between what they scrolled through last week and this week. That's when they want to connect, they want to learn more, and they want to build. And I have to thank you for sharing the vulnerability journey, right? You said, I wasn't good at this. Like, I literally did the point thing where there were like words above me. And that was a trend for a while. And then you tried lip syncing and realized now that's definitely not me. And then you decided, okay, I'm going to practice. I'll talk out loud. And even Jonathan said that he's done this, right? And he's like the bee's knees of social media. Like, these are things we connect with. But what's your superpower? Your superpower is, what are you excited about? What drives you to get up every morning and have a little bit of fun in life? Is it
like what would you be doing if nobody what do you do when nobody is watching you? What just makes you just a little giddy inside? That little kid in you just goes, yay, we get to do this thing. What is that? And how can you bring more of that to the world around you? Because your energy is contagious, and the energy that you bring with you is what everybody else will like pick up on. And it's the kind of thing that you just need to be willing to show up. Okay, so when we were little, right? When we were little, the weird kid who dressed funny, and didn't blend in with everybody else, or who had a really active imagination and was always coming up with stories, like the kids probably made fun of them because they weren't uniformed. And it's in classrooms, it's a gang mentality, very much. As a middle school art teacher, the kids are a gang mentality. But the older you get, if you don't learn to step out of that, you're always going to feel like you don't quite fit in. But in the reality, as adults now, we look at the people who stand out and we're like, wow, how do they do that? That's kind of cool. I could never do that though. I could never do that. And the reality is, yes, you can. You just aren't practiced. You have practiced staying, I say beige. You've practiced staying beige for a very long time, when really you were meant to be a bright red. You were meant to be a turquoise. You were meant to be this color that stands out and that everyone else follows. But there's that fear because that's how you grew up. And if you manage to be the weird kid growing up and you manage to stay weird the whole life, like, congrats to you. Your parents must have been like nurturing that. But if you didn't, and you still don't really have people in your circles that stand out, and you're like, the nerves, take baby steps. You know she's in there. You know he's in there. You know this person, and was, when you close your eyes and you picture your future self, or you picture the fantasy of you living out this life, what do they look like? And how can you take the baby steps going backwards? In fact, my book, I think it's like the second chapter, over the rainbow, somewhere over the rainbow, where I have an activity that has you step backwards and reverse engineer what you want your life to look like. But you can do that for your personality too. You just have to want it.
Yeah, you've given us so many amazing tools, and I'm glad you said the step backward concept, by the way, with your book, because that's another thing a lot of us don't allow ourselves to do, which is space to either decompress or to digest what we've just taken in, right? What does it mean to us, and why do we think we want to hold on to it or let go of it? If the definition of ourselves is changing and we're rediscovering who we were meant to be, what's holding us back? Is it the momentary shame we felt yesterday because we were walking in the grocery store and singing randomly? I might be guilty, but
Yeah.
It's those moments where you wonder, like, why am I judging myself? And is this something I want to be? And even in business, if you're having a creative journey, if you've given yourself the mindset mentality of, I'm going to let this be okay, and I'm going to do it, I'm going to chase it, pursue it.
Yeah.
Well, you still have to give yourself space to determine that that's okay. You've got to allow yourself space to rest and digest and take it in, so you have energy to get to that next step. And I love that that's the way you wrote your book, because that you literally do it in cycles where there's a workbook afterwards, and we have to really sit down and contemplate and think, what does this mean for me? I love that. And Michelle's got her hand up, so I'm going to let her offer some comments or a question real quick.
Oh my gosh, there's so much I could comment on, but we are time conscious, so I'm gonna go through the highlights, because that singing store, if the the music is usually playing, if it's a song I like, I got the steps going, I can't even pick out the food. And I said, you cameras are everywhere. I know somebody's watching it and calling their friend over. Lady. So what? I'm having a good time. It's a good somebody. But truly, I think I found my twin sister.
Yay.
I don't have any sisters. So I think not just a sister, but my twin sister. When she's talking to herself and this, that, and the other, I'm famous for that. In my head, I'm always in my head. And and I had to learn to get out of it, especially, and even, I know this being aired, but even what really made me get to not having to, but being, let's say, offered to go. It pushed me in a different level. So I'm so appreciative of all of this team, for having us do this and be a part of that. Because I did hear that phrase that you mentioned, do it afraid, from an actor who was working on a show. I never acted before. It's him and his wife. They're working with Tyler Perry. And I remember hearing that phrase, you have to go and do this because it is meant to be. So again, all of the story, I have so much to say. We need to have a conversation offline somewhere. We're going to phone for hours, but found my twin sister, and I'm always analyzing me.
Absolutely. Soul sisters.
Yeah, that was amazing comments there, Michelle. It's one of those things where you start to realize that we are all unique and everybody's got different quirks, and some of them overlap, right? I'm glad that I'm not the only one that walks around a store when I hear the song up there and I start unconsciously singing louder than the store is presenting it sometimes. So, and my son is notorious for doing that, including in the middle of school, which we are trying to hone in. But, it's one of those things where you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy that life and pursue what makes you happiest, because that's the creative difference. That's how you get the visibility and sharing those stories. And I appreciate you for that. So I'm gonna pass over to Emma.
Yeah, boy, do I love this. Boy, am I having a blast being here. Thank you so much. And yes, I've even danced with my husband in the cereal aisle. So, it's good to, it was really sweet, a little bit of a dip, I've worked really hard too, Sarah, for what you're talking about, to be able to be courageous enough to not show up beige, and found a lot of permission to do that in the creative arts as a singer and actress and so on. And then coming into business, that was really challenging because I've always seen business as the beige. But to do it from the entrepreneur's point of view is different. I ordered your book, by the way, while we were online here. I have a question for you around that, which is that when I got into business for myself, I was told a lot about marketing, and I was not comfortable with a lot of what I was told. And I wonder if you can speak to the marketing side beyond, the creative marketing, where it's not beige, it's your turquoise or your indigo or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have time to touch on that?
Yeah. So there are the four main C's of visibility. You've got clarity, and clarity is obviously not just clarity in your messages, but clarity in your audience. There's confidence, and confidence in who you're talking to. You know that you're qualified to talk to who you're talking to. And then confidence in yourself and confidence in showing up. Consistency. And consistency is consistency not just in how often you show up, but consistency on what your messages are and what you're putting out. So stop trying to flip through the channels and talk to everybody. Pick a couple of messages and be really consistent on them. And then the fourth one is the creativity. And the creativity is what differentiates you from everyone else around you. And you're right. I came into marketing in the beginning, like when I was a photographer, thinking that, oh, well, it's like school, you know, we were all trained to do the same thing and you all have to market like everybody else around you. But then that's how you become beige. You become beige because then you're all blending in to one landscape, and then no one can tell why they should go to you versus to someone else. And what I've learned throughout this process is that if you choose to show up authentically as you, and you are the reason people are coming to you, like there's lots of different competitors. You're like life coach, right? Photographer, you know, now business coach. There's lots and lots and lots of options for people to go to anyone. So why are they choosing you over somebody else? They're not choosing you because you give better service, because more than likely your service looks exactly kind of like anybody else. They're coming to you because of you. They're coming to you because they relate to you as a person. I think it was Zig Ziglar. People do business with people, not businesses. And so, well, what does that mean and what does that look like? That means you're not afraid to be you, even if it's pushing other people away. Do you think everybody thinks she's funny? I do her. I show her. Even when I was a photographer, I'd be at my trade shows and I would put her out on the table. I wouldn't say anything. I'd just sit her there. Networking events, I just sit her out on the table because the curious ones will come and ask. And for the people who don't get her, it's okay. I have plenty of people that do. And the people that think it's funny and that think it's clever, those are my people. And so all I have to do is show up more authentically as me. And that's what marketing is. Marketing, you think of marketing, you think of the big, big brands like Pepsi and Walmart and Nike and that kind of thing. But we're not big brands. We're small brands. We are personal brands. And when you are a solo business owner or you are even a small entrepreneur, you cannot compare yourself to a big brand and you cannot market like a big brand because they're marketing a product and they actually have the more difficult situation. Even though they've got tons of people on their marketing team, they're trying really hard and putting thousands of, probably more, hundreds of thousands of dollars into advertising to try to get their customer to relate to their brand. And all we have to do is show up and be ourselves and do it consistently and have consistent messages. And that's how people are going to be attracted to us. We don't have to do the whole dog and pony show like the big dogs do. You just have to know what that superpower is, which is what I do for my clients, right? I help my clients figure out like what they do, what their superpower is, what their messages are, how to word them, what the visuals go with, all of that. But it's not, you have to have fun with it.
Yeah, that's a good question, Emma. And what a fantastic answer, Sarah. I think, you know, business is intimidating alone, knowing that we have to match along with the Fortune 500, right? But outside of that, being ourselves, being creative, having that squad to support us and allow us to be in those moments of excitement and joy and pursuing that. I think that's amazing. And you've given us a lot to chew on today. And Jonathan's got his hand up, and then I think we're going to close it out here at the end of the hour, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Jonathan.
Sure. I just wanted to say I really appreciated kind of for everything that you said today, I got this really great impression that you have given yourself permission to be very good at what you do and to also give yourself the grace to learn while you're doing it.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that gets in the way of a lot of people who are either in the throes of running a business or are scared to launch one, is that idea that they have to know how all of this is going to pan out before it happens. And that's something that I, even in small things, not even launching a business and making, decisions about booking an Airbnb or something, I'll already find myself in that mindset. And I really loved the way that you I'm literally about to talk about how I think you're so good at communicating something and I'm unable to put the words out myself. But I thought you did such a wonderful job of kind of validating that and letting people know that that is an incredible way to build a business, is to give yourself, say, listen, I know what I'm doing, but I also know that there's a lot I've got to learn along the way. And even when you brought up, and I freaked out here when you mentioned that you talk to yourself all the time. I do too. I talk to myself all the time, even just to get a thought out and be like, how does this actually sound? Like, is this a logical thing? Is this a real thing? Hearing it a lot of times will bring some clarity to a thought that you have. And it's even wonderful to think about how I'll feel weird about that sometimes or self-conscious about that. And it's my voice, it's my thoughts, and that's not something to feel strange about. And I just appreciate that that validation. I took a lot away from that, and I know that your clients do as well, in the way that it's not only even helping them find their superpower, it's giving them permission to believe they have one.
Yes.
And that they have something they can bring to the table, even if they're not sure of it. And I can't put into words how valuable that is to all of your clients and to anyone who's listening to this. So I so appreciate you having that, using your time today to dig so deep into that. I'm taking a lot away from it. So thank you for that, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I'll add on to that, even in the process, where if I see that I'm going in the wrong direction and I'm like, oh, I had been going in this direction, but now that I've learned this new piece about me and about my audience, I really don't think I should be going in that direction anymore. It takes a lot of intention and a lot of self-talk out loud, to tell myself it's okay to turn around.
Yes.
It's okay to take a right turn or a left turn instead of keep going in the wrong direction, because the people who are watching me and I'm like, but the people, they're watching me and they're watching me like pivot all these times. And I have to remind myself, they're not going to remember 6 months down the road. They're not going to remember, 3 months. They might not even remember next week. It's me that's keeping tallies of all these things. And my audience, they're not going to think anything of it. As long as I'm doing what I feel is good for my business and what's good for me, that's all that matters.
Yeah. It's a brilliant example. It's a brilliant example to set for people.
Yeah. Thank you.
What a great conversation and a great kind of keynote to end that on. I think that everybody has a superpower, of course, and discovering that it's something that's difficult, more difficult than most people want to let on. So again, find your squad. You guys are my squad. I appreciate that. I think this conversation was well timed. We have had a lot on how to use social media and how to post things appropriately and pick your platform. This really aligns with, where do we really start? Where's the excitement? Where's the joy and the fun and the creative visibility? If you can get creative, you can allow yourself the opportunity to use all these tools we have at our fingertips and actually show up authentically, align with people who love what you do in business, and then you can love on them back. And I think that that's powerful. That's community. That's how we grow. That's how small business has always survived and will continue to thrive. So Sarah, thank you so much for everything you've shared today and for being our guest and for the community members that were here that offered comments and kudos.
Thank you. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Always open to opportunities, and the nervousness I decided to replace this morning with curiosity. And, when you're walking into something that feels like you should be nervous about it, just change your mindset to curiosity instead. And it's, have more fun with your life.
Definitely.
So that would be my biggest takeaway from everything is just to find the joy in the everyday, and then be willing to share it.
There you go. Find the joy in every day and be willing to share it. Tomorrow you showed up, you got the one nugget that mattered in the whole thing.
I tried. Those group program meetings are just, whew, they can run over.
No, I'm glad you showed up. We are going to have this recording, by the way. This recap is going to go up in the next 2 weeks. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Watch the whole thing if you can. It's wonderful. If not, we'll have highlights. Otherwise, reach out, connect, contribute. That's what we've got to do in the community to continue to grow and learn. And I think that's a superpower in itself, being out there and connecting in the community with intention. So Sarah, thank you so much. And again, everybody else, thank you for being on today, and have yourselves a great weekend. Take that walk, take that recess.